Today we're going to continue with the next Mayim of the Rebbe from 40 years ago, Tavshin Lamed Ches. Until now we learned the Mayim of Matzei Simchas Torah and the Mayim of Matzei Shabbos Bereishis. The Mayim of Matzei Simchas Torah was talking about why do we talk about Simchas Torah on Shmini Atzeres rather than on Shavuos. Why do we dance with a closed Sefer Torah rather than an open Sefer Torah? In that case, it's the night after Simchas Torah. We're going into Yaakov Halach L'Darka, into the world, but we're understanding how to go into the regular days of the world from the power that we got from Simchas Torah, the power of Kedusha. The question only is, rather, why is the Kedusha in our feet and in a closed Sefer Torah rather than a revealed Kedusha? And by understanding that, we understand how through the feet we can bring it into the days that follow. Matzei Shabbos Bereishis, we're already a step further. V'Yaakov Halach L'Darka. We're not in the week after Simchas Torah. We're already after Shabbos Bereishis. We're already going into the world. We're already going into the regular days of the year. And therefore the question is, why do we start the Torah with Bereishis Bara Elikim and not Achedesh Zalachem? Why don't we deal with revealing godliness in the world with Hazeh, the godliness that's above the world, and bringing it into Achedesh, into the world? Why Bereishis? And by understanding Bereishis, that Hashem created the world, then we understand how to go from Shabbos Bereishis into the regular days of the year and reveal godliness in them. Now we're continuing on to the next step on Matzei Shabbos Parshas Noach. On Matzei Shabbos Parshas Noach, we're already going into Cheshvan. We're already going into the regular weekdays. We're no longer even in the month of Tishrei. Here we're not asking about why do we talk about a world and explain that the world was created by Hashem. Here it's a new V'Yaakov Halach L'Darka. The V'Yaakov Halach L'Darka of Shabbos Bereishis was giving us the power to go and deal with the world. The V'Yaakov Halach L'Darka of Shabbos Noach is when we already dealt an entire week with the world. We've already been a whole week after Bereishis. We're already after a whole week in the world. Now it's no longer Bereishis Bara Elikim. Now it's no longer a world understanding how the world is Hashem, but we're already in a world where we're dealing with a situation with things that not only do we have to reveal how it's really godliness, but we're dealing with an adversary that tries to fight us, that tries to stop us, that tries to confuse us from doing what we're supposed to do. Now it's a new V'Yaakov Halach L'Darka. You have a Yaakov Halach L'Darka in a world which is distance from Hashem, and not only is it distance from Hashem, but it's in a world that tries to take us away from what we're really all about. And that's how we started, and that's Parshas Noach. It's not just Bereishis, it's not just a world that was created by Hashem, and we have to realize it was created by Hashem. And it's a world, but it's rather a world where there's Mei Noach, where there's a Mabul, where there's a flood, where there's Mal Haaretz Chamas, where there's evil. And here we have to somehow find how to reveal godliness and how to not only not let this evil take us away from our true mission, but on the contrary, that it should help us fulfill our mission. And that's what the Rebbe starts on Matzei Shabbos Noach. Once again from the Rebbe's room on the live hookup, and the Rebbe starts the Maimer with the words Mayim Rabim. Lo yuchlu lechabes esa'avo naharis lo yishtefua, the words of Shlomo HaMelech in Shir HaShirim, where he's discussing the love between Hashem and the Jewish people, where he's discussing a situation where the Jewish people have already gone against what they were supposed to, where the Jewish people are in Galus, where the Jewish people are in a state where they're amongst the nations of the world who try and take them away from Hashem, who try and distance them from their love of Hashem. And the Jewish people announce and proclaim Mayim Rabim. The great and multitudes of water are not able to extinguish the love between us, the Jewish people, and Hashem. And the rivers, lo yishtafu, will not flood it. And what does that mean? The Rabim explain in their Mamarim that Mayim Rabim means the tirdes haparnasa, the involvement that a person has with parnasa, with making a livelihood. The tirdes, the worries, and the various things that are in a person's life that seem to take him away from Hashem. And yet they're not able to extinguish their love. And not only that, but Nahar is the rivers. That rivers go and they flow back and forth with great rapids. Which means that these worries and these thoughts and these involvement that comes to the person tries to take him away in such a strong and powerful way that he feels like he's being flooded by them. They come and they're attacking him from all sides. And yet they too are not able to flood the love that a Jew has for Hashem. And the Rebbe explains then, what do we mean when we say tirdes haparnasa? A tirda means an occupation, that I'm occupied with the worries of parnasa, of making a livelihood. The fact that a person has to make a livelihood, and a person has to be involved in the world, which means not only he's out in the world and he realizes that the world is Bereshis bara Elikim, but that the person actually has to go out there and be doing things that seem to be mundane matters, and that he has to get involved in them. The fact that a person has to work in order to make a living, that's something that Hashem established. Person has to work. That's what Hashem wants in the world. But nevertheless, we're told that Yigia kapecha kisoichal ashrecha v'toivlach. When you eat the toil of your hands, then you're lucky and it's good for you. The way Hashem wants it is that the person's hands should be involved in making his livelihood, in his business. The way Hashem wants it is that even though it says, when will Hashem send His blessings? When you get involved and when you're involved in the world. Nevertheless, a person has to involve in it only his hands, his outer faculties, his brain and his heart, the inner faculties, the understanding, the connection, the wisdom, the feeling and the emotions, those should be totally connected with Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs, and with davening and connecting to Hashem. That's the way it's meant to be. Even though sometimes the garments of nature, in which the livelihood and the ashpa gashmis, the physical flow of physical success comes through, Hashem put it in the world, and it's in a way that it's so concealed that a person actually has to get involved, that a person even has to use his mind in order to understand it, in order to use his mind to know how to do it. Nevertheless, the one's mind that is being used should be only understanding with regards to my action, understanding how to act. But the actual mind, the actual chachma, the actual wisdom of the person has to realize that it's Hashem's blessing that makes me rich, not that I'm going to get so involved that I think that it's totally me. Because if I get so involved and I think it's totally me, then it's just like garments. When a person wears clothing and the clothing are too long or there's too many clothing, not only it doesn't help him, but on the contrary, it only ruins things. It causes him to trip. When the clothing are too many, it's a problem. So also over here, when a person has to get involved in the world, because that's how Hashem wants it. But when he gets too involved and he thinks that it's his involvement that makes it happen, he forgets that it's the blessing of Hashem that makes him rich. He puts his entire existence into the pursuit after his livelihood, then not only doesn't it help, it actually makes things worse. And nevertheless, here we're talking about a person that has tirdes aparnasa, which means he didn't contemplate properly that it's Hashem's blessing that makes him rich. He's involved in the weak, he's involved in noyach. He went out into the world and he goes out on a daily basis thinking that this is what's making him earn his livelihood, forgetting that it's coming from Hashem, putting his mind and his heart into it in a sense and in a way that it takes him away from his proper learning Torah and doing what he's supposed to do. He's not on the level that he's supposed to be. And still, even this person who has the Mayim Rabim, who has the tirdes haparnasa, who has the worries and the involvement in his livelihood, and it's in a way of naharis, it's a way that it comes in rapids, and yet it's nevertheless not able to extinguish the love that he has for Hashem, the inner love that he has for Hashem, and it's not able to flood that love. That's what we're saying. That's the chiddush. That love is so strong and so powerful that even though he's not doing things the way he's supposed to, he's gotten totally involved in the world, yet that love is stronger and it's still always there. And now the Rebbe takes it a step further and says, but why? Why is that such a chiddush? Why is that such a big deal? Isn't it obvious? The love that a Jew has for Hashem, that's a hidden love of the soul. That's part of a Jew's neshama. That's part of his essence. Of course that's more powerful even than the tirdes of parnasa. Yes, even though he's not contemplating the way he should, he's not realizing the way he should that this isn't what it's all about. But there's a love, and that's part of his neshama. Obviously that's going to be stronger and more powerful. What's Shlomo HaMelech telling us over here? So the Rebbe says, 1 second. Let's take a look. What is this love? What is this love? Where does it come from? And what are the Mayim Rabim and where do they come from? The love is a spiritual thing. The Mayim Rabim, we call it an abundance of water. Abundance meaning they're very strong and big and larger than life. There's something which is an abundant. Why are they so abundant? Where is their source? Where is their root? Where is the root of the physical world and where is the root of the spiritual world? The physical world, we know, comes from Tohu. It comes from the world of chaos. When Hashem created the world, He made there be an intense spiritual light that was so intense that it couldn't be revealed as a spiritual light, that by the time the way it's revealed in the world is as something that doesn't feel light at all. That's the source of physical world. Even more than that, the physical world is created by the essence of Hashem. Spirituality is a much lesser energy. It's an energy that feels its spiritual root. How is it then? That's the chiddush. That's what we're saying. That's where, despite that, the intense Mayim Rabim, which are much, Tohu is a place where there's an intense light, an intense energy. It's Oires Merubim. It's a multitude of light and energy coming from the world, spiritual world. And yet, despite the fact that they are Mayim Rabim, still they're not able to extinguish the spiritual energy which its source is lower. It's Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue a little bit more to go deeper into these ideas of Tohu and Tikkun. And then understand why is it really that it's not able to do it. But this is the general lesson. We're going into the world. We finished Tishrei. We even finished Shabbos Bereishis. We've gone through a whole week in the world. And now our question is, how do we do it? How do we take that oneness, that single dancing of Yom Kippur, which was expressed in Simchas Torah, that Yachid, that oneness, how do we take it and bring it even into a world that seems to try and take us away from Hashem?